it's kind of crazy. And like when you start doing the quantum stuff, that's actually the thing that I like the most because it makes me think because I can't Google an answer. I'm kind of like, and
Hmm.
which goes back to my take on, what a real scientist should be doing. And this is why, I admire people who, even though they have tenure at a university, are trying to kind of push things a little bit, and I'm sure catch a lot of flack for it. But as a scientist, really, you have to be kind of agnostic about it because I've done some experiments and we've done them repeatedly, like double blind, placebo controlled studies with the quantum behavior on things in a physical system. And the results are just weird. They're absolutely damn weird, right? But you get that and you don't go like, oh, well, it's strange, let's exclude it. You go, okay, well, I don't understand this, let's pull the thread, right? You have to be really agnostic and let the data take you where the data takes you. That's good science. When you go, oh, I've dropped this ball 1,000 times and the hundred or the thousandth time it hovers in the air, you don't go, well, it's aberrant and exclude it. You go, what the hell just happened? And you lock down on that. And I use that analogy a lot because it literally is like that. Some of this quantum stuff, you see it and you're like, I'm sorry, that does not function even remotely like I thought it should function like. And then you do it again and you go, still not functioning the way I thought it would function like. And you do it a couple times, you're like, what the hell's going on? I have no idea. Which is great. I like to be in that space where I feel like the slow guy in the room because I'm like, I don't know what's happening, because then you have to think. You're going to be like, okay, let's break this down. It's interesting to me because a lot of times in science, I see things where it was like working on Neural RX, right? Neural RX was literally designed for people with Alzheimer's. And so
Really?
I yeah, that's its use, right? People use it as a nootropic because they don't have really horrible cognitive deficits, so it amps up their brain phenomenally well. But it was literally every single component in that stuff was thought out very carefully to ameliorate certain conditions for Alzheimer's.
Hmm.
And so it works amazingly well. Like if I had the capital resources, I would put that thing in an FDA trial today.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pass go. I wouldn't collect $200. I would put it in today because I already know the result because I've seen it so many times from people who have written me who had family members that had Alzheimer's. And it's profound. But every single component was specifically designed for that. Like you've got peptidase in there, which is a proteolytic enzyme, because there was a Japanese research group that showed that would pass the blood-brain barrier and break down tau proteins and amyloid plaquing. And not that
Does that
that's
in the
actually the
joints as well, doesn't it?
it does.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
does. So, and I included that in the Olympic serum for that very reason. So
yeah.
I've got a really highly concentrated, version of that enzyme it's about 8 times stronger than anything you could buy on the market.
Yeah.
And I put that in there because that stuff packs a punch. Unfortunately, I will tell you, if you're working in the lab and you happen to get a little bit on your hand and maybe just wipe your eye at some point, bad, really, really bad. Yeah, I made the mistake about 5 years ago of actually I just got some powder on my hand. I wasn't, just being sloppy, and at some point must have done that, and then about an hour later my eye literally closed. Couldn't It was out for a day. Couldn't use it. Yeah, the enzymes went to work and it was less than thrilling. So
Not in
yeah,
the way that you
all
would
the
design.
but all those components, everyone has a purpose.
Yeah.
Some are to upregulate the glymphatic system so that your brain actually uses this little subset of your lymphatic system is in your brain called the glymphatic system, and it opens while you're asleep, and it uses interstitial fluid and cerebrospinal fluid to literally wash your brain, right? So
Yeah,
those
the
two
beta
things combined.
amyloid. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
but the problem is with things specifically like tau proteins and amyloid plaques is it's like trying to wash away a boulder with a garden hose. They develop over time and they're sticky and they cluster together and they wrap and pack around things. And if you go in and you just try and wash it out, well, as you're getting older, that's literally the glymphatic system is literally like it's a hydrostatic system, right? So it's got a certain pressure gradient and it's opening up and actually trying to wash. Well, as you get older, your body has less power. right? So literally, it's not as high. So there's a kink in the garden hose. So not only are you trying to wash away rocks that have been glued together, to make these big rocks, but you've also kinked the garden hose. So all the components basically unkink the garden hose and crack the rocks into little bitty pieces, so that every night when you're asleep and the glymphatic system triggers and opens, that cerebrospinal fluid and interstitial fluid can go in and actually wash and pull that stuff out. So you get progressively better and better and better, and then it starts to upregulate, your neurogenesis. And so, what one of the studies found, and this is really intriguing, is that the neurons that are produced after you start using the C60 actually had a different morphology. So physically, they were different. Their axonal span is like 2 to 3 times larger than the normal span. Yeah, we just jokingly call them super neurons because they're much larger. And I always think of it like a patch cord, because if you have a neuron that can actually gap around something, it's funny. There's a lot of things that are actually physical in nature, and the outcroppings, people don't ever really pay attention to why we do things. But if you can't think of something, right, what do? You think around it. Because if you look at the shape of a neuron, you're trying to get some sort of either electric or electrochemical potentiation to land at a certain spot where you can pull something.
Yeah.
But if you can't, you think of things in the periphery and you kind of link the pathway around to it, because you're for whatever reason, you're occluded and you're blocked on the straight shot. But if you start remembering, like, what the heck was that person's name? Well, where was I? Well, who was I talking to?
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
start kind of filling in, you're gonna eventually get there. And I think there's a correlation between that and the structural shape of that stuff.
Just on that, like, just sometimes I am guilty of thinking, well, if one is good, surely two must be better. What if I were to get up in the morning and take the Olympic RX, and then of an evening take the Neural RX? Or is that what you propose people
That's
do?
what I do.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
You're
actually what
living
I
the
do.
dream,
I
Ian. You're living the dream.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to kind of practice what I preach, and sometimes I do, sometimes I still take time off though, and I'll cycle it. I'll do a run, and then I'll take sometimes a week, sometimes a month off. Over the past 12 years or so that I've been doing this, I'll go through periods where I purposely try and cycle off, and the reason for that is I don't think your body's designed to do anything exogenous, anything from the outside consistently, because it's so adaptive.
Mm.
Everything I've seen basically shows that if you take something all the time, then your body can sense that pretty quickly and it downregulates its own production. So since I don't want to shut off my own production of glutathione or my own production of superoxide dismutase, I cycle. My normal run would be 5 days on, 2 days off. So I'll take it throughout the week, and then I'll just chill out on the weekends and not take it. And
Yeah.
that's sort of my personal cycle.